Jensen Huang's 30-minute talk on the big bet he made more than 30 years ago, the future of AI, synthetic data, first principle thinking, etc., with summaries and comments by Joanne Z. Tan. This is Joanne Tan, 10 Plus brand. Jensen Huang is the co-founder and the CEO of Nvidia. As of today, Nvidia has a $4 trillion valuation. It's the most valuable company in the world and in human history. Jensen shared insights for 30 minutes with a Stanford audience at the Asian American Pioneer Medal Symposium on July 26, 2025. Joanne Z. Tan, brand strategist, thought leadership coach at 10 Plus Brand Inc., was in the audience and recorded Jensen Huang's entire talk, which is broken down into 3 parts, with summaries as well as comments. Joanne Tan did not use any AI to summarize or comment. The video was recorded on a handheld cell phone further away from the stage. The quality of this video does not reflect the professional videos made by 10 Plus Brand Inc. This part 1 is the first 10-minute segment of a 3-part recording of Jensen Huang's 30-minute talk in Stanford. Part 1 summary. The big bet Jensen Huang made in 1993. By inventing the technology and the market at the same time, Jensen aimed to expand, augment, and accelerate general-purpose computing CPUs with specialized algorithms for the video game niche. Jensen Huang had the foresight 3 decades ago to create CUDA, a compatible accelerated computing architecture that became the pillars for AI advancement today. The visualized hardware platform invented in 1994 demanded that Nvidia grow other parts of the flywheel, developer ecosystem, install base, and the subsequent demand for GPUs invented by Nvidia. At that time, to answer the question, if we build it, will they come? Jensen said, if we don't build it, they can't come. You have to believe in what you believe, and you have to pursue that belief. This is at the core of our company. Jensen Huang's remaining 20 minutes talk with my summary and comments continue in part 2 and 3.
So first of all, I want to apologize for dressing like this. Everybody else is dressed in tuxedos. Nobody sent me the memo. This is why I dress on the weekends. And I was taking a nap right before this. I don't get a proper sleep anymore, so I sleep on weekends.
That's awesome. Thank you.
If I'm talking in my sleep, you know what happened.
So, I'm supposed to introduce you, and well, I don't think Jensen needs any introduction.
I still want to hear it.
Who are you? So, this is an incredible gathering. The auditorium is exceeding its capacity, so I'll keep it short. Jensen, the visionary founder and the CEO of Nvidia, I really don't think he's just making the chips. We're all dying together. I believe he is changing the course of humanity and civilization trajectory, because AI is the future we're all stepping into. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to get him to share with us what is exciting, what keeps you awake, and what are the challenges you think we're facing. Please share with us some untold story.
This is what I wear on weekends. Was there a question?
You told me you are going to share your story regardless of the prompt.
Without you? No, what X-Team said was he had some questions and he wanted me to read the questions in advance. But I have to prepare, I'm busy. And so I have to prepare for the moment at the moment. You know? And so you gotta ask me a question. Is there a question? First of all, everything I say today that's smart is because I went to Stanford. And anything that I said that wasn't smart, that's because, well, I won't blame the other guys. want to start?
So really, I think that the first question I would love to ask is, you made a big bet on CUDA, and also almost drove your company to bankrupt. But you you did overcome the resistance and the skepticism of many people at that time. And this turned out to be one of your best success stories. So, is there any moment you can reflect that you want to share with this audience? Also, what will be the next CUDA big bets you think that your company will need to have in the next 10 years?
I want to tell you about some of the big bets that we made, and I'll explain the reasoning that led to the big bet. The first big bet was in 1993. The idea that general purpose computing all by itself, that applications running on CPUs, can't possibly solve many of the interesting problems that we have ahead of us. And the reason for that is because a general purpose instrument is important in almost the development of any category. A general purpose car, a general purpose house, a general purpose anything, okay, whatever it is. But over time, if the category were to expand, it would segment to address niches that are important. In the case of computing, the general purpose architecture allows it to, well, obviously run anything. But the challenges for specialized algorithms, it could be fluid dynamics, it could be particle systems, it could be structured data processing, it could be computer graphics. Whatever these, it could be signal processing, whatever these extreme computation algorithms don't fit nicely in a general purpose computer. And so we imagined that there would be a way to create accelerated systems that could augment the CPU and solve these interesting problems. The problem with specialized systems is that the markets are too small. And if the markets are too small, it's hard to create the flywheel, the R&D flywheel, to add enough value to the central processing unit, which at the time literally had the world's investment in it. And so that's the challenge. How do you find that extreme capability to solve interesting problems on the one hand, but have a market sufficiently large that could create that flywheel? And so we wanted to invent this new way of doing computation. And the question, how do you get started? And we came up with a great idea. The first great idea of the company was video games. And the reason for that is because video games used 3D graphics, which were computationally insanely hard. At the time was silicon graphics supercomputers doing image generation. We said, what if we were to create a system that allows us to do that in a really cost-effective way, but find a very large market on the other hand? And so the problem was 3D graphics algorithms made small required invention, and creating the video game market for 3D required invention. And so the problem for our company at the time, and you'll see this repeated over and over again, that we had to invent two things at one time. We had to invent the technology, and we had to invent the market. Notice artificial intelligence, when it came along, I was quite receptive to the idea. You have to invent the technology on the one hand, you have to invent the market. Scientific computing, using acceleration versus very large number of CPUs, we had to invent the technology and invent the programming approach and the whole ecosystem, the market of programming in this way. And so these two-sided problems we were very good at. 1993 made that observation that in many fields of computation you have to invent the technology and invent the market. That first pillar of our company exists to this day. The second big idea was that if you're a computing platform, install base developers are probably the single most important thing. And that observation, of course, is obvious for anybody who's creating a platform today. But at the time, the idea that we would make all of our accelerators be architecturally compatible. It's the first accelerated system to this day that's architecturally compatible. And we call it UDA. We added eventually the letter to it, CUDA. But UDA started in 1994. So that concept, that architecture, that abstracted architecture, NVIDIA's architecture is abstract in the sense that it's a hardware platform, it's bare metal, but it's virtualized. It's, to this day, an incredible invention. And we still maintain it in our company is really important. And that enabled us to continue to grow the developer ecosystem, create a larger and larger install base. The more your install base, the more developers, the more people buy your products, creating a larger install base. That flywheel started in 1995. Okay? And then the next breakthrough was, of course, CUDA. The problem with CUDA was it was the first investment that we made where the hardware investment, the silicon investment, it sat inside this graphics chip. Remember, we invented this thing called a GPU. And this GPU was designed for programmable graphics. We invented programmable graphics. When we put CUDA on top of that, the cost of CUDA, the weight of this new feature, was greater than the entire cost of everything that was underneath it. And so you can't double your cost as a company without going out of business. It doesn't exist. And so the challenge for us was, how do we double the cost of our platform when there were no applications? And I still remember dealing with this challenge, and we had to make, it was essentially an existential decision. And the question was, if we build it, will they come? And ultimately what I said was, if we don't build it, they can't come. And you have to believe in what you believe. And to this day, NVIDIA employees, they'll throw it back at me. If there's an investment or a decision or strategy we want to go pursue, but there's no evidence it can succeed. Zero evidence it can succeed. Somebody would say, well, you have to believe what you believe. And so, but that is at the core of our company.